Welcome back to the Sunday Footy Show. It is now time for Inside the 10. Adam Pengilly from the Sydney Morning Herald. Paul Gallen, you're one of the stand-in journos.
Stand-in journo.
Stand-in journos.
Mark Levy couldn't make it today, sorry, mate. So.
Running scared, Levy. Come back. Run of you.
Andrew Webster from the Sydney Morning Herald as well. How do you feel sitting in?
Webby dominated Levy last week.
Oh, I reckon it was pretty even.
You're right, I don't know.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I thought Webby.
I'm offensive to Webby. You got to remember that. I'm neutral. All right. Well, let's get started. Big story with the Dragons and Ben Hunt and his future. Should the Dragons release Ben Hunt? And is this an early vote of no confidence in Flano?
I don't think it says anything about Flano at all, and him. I mean, he's had his feet under the desk he hasn't got his feet under the desk. He's only got appointed less than a week ago. I don't think the significance should be downplayed, though. I mean, he's the captain and the marquee player at that club. I think they should release him. If he doesn't want to be there, he shouldn't be there. But I think what you said earlier on the show is true. They should release him. I mean, they should leverage it.
I would
release him if I could leverage it to get a better player or another player or a senior player out of the club that he goes to. That club is desperate for leaders.
That's exactly what they need.
But that's what they need. But whether they can do that or not,
unless they can get a really good halfback like Ben Hunt, or a really good, say, hooker, which is what they need, you can't let him go. And I wouldn't be letting him go without a fight. And if he wants to go and he's going to kick stones and carry on, well, mate, the Dragons have done it before. The Dragons have stood players out, and I'd be doing that. Unless they can get a like-for-like replacement.
I agree. Just as I said, I think they should leverage it to get something that they want.
Ben Hunt is thinking about what's gone on in the past. He hasn't worked with Shane Flanagan.
100%.
He does not understand the amount of responsibility Flano would give him, which I think he would like.
There's an easy way to deal with this, I reckon, Danica, is Melbourne Storm a few years ago. That Josh Adokar wanted to leave the club. They said, OK, you can go, Josh, but only if we get someone in return. Brandon Smith did the same thing, remember? Brandon Smith wanted to leave Melbourne. They said, you can go, Brandon, but only if we get a player in return. And guess what? They didn't get a player in return that they thought was good enough, so those guys stayed at the club. That's what the Dragons should do.
Do you think, though, that if you force a player to stay, you're causing more issues?
Well, you know what? The player's got to suck it up and get on with it. You know, sometimes the club's got to show some backbone. Would a player do this to the Sydney Roosters? I mean, Riles just did it. Riles just went and looked elsewhere, and they just sacked him straight away, got rid of him straight away. So I think sometimes the club has to show some backbone. So hang on a sec, mate. You've been here for 5 or 6 years, right? We have not made a semi-final series, and that's not Ben Hunt's fault. That is not his fault. It's a team sport. But he has also not attracted any other talent. When you're a senior player and you're on the most amount of money, the best player on the side, you should be able to attract other players who want to come play with you. That hasn't happened at the Dragons. So he's been happy to take the money, and in my opinion, not deliver a lot back. I'd be saying, if I was the club, I'd be holding tight.
I find the timing curious that it's come out while he's in Origin camp. I mean, I'm surprised how surprised people are by it, because his comments last week while in camp for Queensland that when he couldn't talk about his future at all, and look, I don't really want to say anything about it, that was a good sign that he wanted out.
Webby, if he wants to go to the Titans, wouldn't the Dragons go to him and say, OK, you can have him, we'll take Tino.
OK.
We'll take AJ Brimson. Like, there's no way the Titans are going to agree to that, but that's the hardball stance the Dragons have got to take, I think, right now.
And you've also got to feel for Flano. I feel like this has been something that's been bubbling along for some time now with Ben Hunt. He was obviously a big supporter of Griffin, and he has had issues with the club, and it's not necessarily on Flanagan. He's just been the person who's been announced, and then this has all happened. So,
yeah. And as I said, he's basing all his decision on what's gone in the club in years gone by. Okay, the club with Flano, they will hopefully take a new stance, and maybe the board will become tighter and make more decisions equally. And as I said, Flano will give him a hell of a lot of responsibility to make that team and to make that club better. And I think Ben Hunt should stick around to try and do that.
You know Flano better than anyone. What do you think? How do you think he'd react to this?
I think he'll be holding firm. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him about it, but I'll be pretty certain he wants Ben Hunt there. He wouldn't. I think he's already spoken to Ben Hunt, so I'd imagine he'd want him there. He'd want him to help grow this club to where it should be.
All right, moving on. Does the win against the Knights release the pressure on the Roosters?
Look, I don't think there is any pressure on the Roosters. I mean, 6 weeks ago I said Parramatta had gone. I thought they were absolutely gone. Now they're coming fourth. The Roosters have won 7 games. I think you win 3 or 4 games in this competition. It's so tight. You're all of a sudden well and truly in the top 8. So I don't think there's any pressure on the Roosters internally anyway. There's talk externally about them. And look, they are looking the best at the moment, but they had a win on the weekend, which is what they need. So that'll release a little bit of pressure internally for this week anyway. And I think they've got the quality of player there that can turn it around pretty quickly. So as I said, they win 2 or 3 games in a row, they'd be back in the top 8. So I don't think there's a lot of pressure on them.
I take your point about the ladder, Gal, but they're playing nowhere near the expectation of a club with that roster.
But mate, they're still on 7 games.
You
That's
gotta
true.
remember who's playing at the moment. They're missing a number of
They
players.
are, Jacob. But even before that, when Brandon Smith was on the field, when Sam Walker was on the field, they were playing nowhere near the potential that they could display. And I take your point about the ladder, you're right. I think they're, what are they, two wins behind? They're 2 wins behind Penrith in second,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I mean. So the ladder is so tight. Anyone in the top first 13 teams can you win 2 or 3 in a row, you're back in the top 8.
What are they going to do in the halves now? Like, Kiri's going to be out for an extended period at the moment. Joey
Walker-
Manu clearly had an enormous game yesterday at fullback. That's his position. He has to go back to 5'8".
Did Walker play yesterday? Didn't see
No,
him.
no, he's
No,
still
he's
injured.
Walker come back
He's
in
still
the
a while
side.
off.
Walker's injured too, is he?
Yeah, he is.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the win papered over some cracks. I think people talking about external noise. I think internally there's some issues at that club. I spoke to quite a few people at the Roosters this week, and I don't think they're a particularly happy club. Despite the fact that they're on the edge of the 8, I think there's some deeper fundamental issues there that needs to be dealt with. And I think, as it was explained to me, there's issues with what they do with Swali, what's going on with Walker and his future at the club, and I think all those little things that are happening individually. Don't think the drama around what's happening with Lodge has been particularly great, and they just to me don't seem like the Roosters. They all seem to be. There's all these issues bubbling below the surface that need to be resolved, but only. You know, they're still such a strong club. I'm sure they can resolve it.
Are you saying that there are fractions within the club and people who are on different wavelengths?
A little bit, yeah.
And is it all those issues that... Because there have been quite a number of big things that have happened to the club with Joseph Swali'i departing and whether...
But that's a case in point. Do they keep him
Next year.
or do they get rid of him at the end of this year? I think that's causing a lot of consternation internally at the club.
And also the Sam Walker situation?
Well, whether, there's been agitation about him and his family and whether he gets released and whether he should go somewhere else. They'll say no, but that's a factor as well. I think the main thing that Trent Robinson's trying to keep a handle on is just the noise around that club that's coming out of that club. And that's an issue for him for the rest of the season.
So much is expected. With that roster they have, so much is expected. So they can understand the noise externally, but as I said, I just think they win a few games in a row, they'll find the cohesion again, and all of a sudden they're back in the top 8. Whether they can do that or not, it's another thing, because I agree that they're not playing good footy, but it's not hard to turn around these days. You
mentioned before, Gal, about the Roosters and taking those strong stances, what they did with Jason Riles. Is that something that they should be looking at to do with Swali'i as well then?
Yeah, look, I don't know. I mean, I got no problem with Swali'i. I mean, I agree with Gus's point that every time we talk about him, we're promoting another code or promoting another sport. I haven't watched enough of the Roosters lately to see exactly how he's playing or what he's doing, but if he's fitting in that team and doing his job for that team and playing well, and there's no reason to get rid of him, I don't think. I think he's done the right... He's done the right way. He hasn't gone in and asked for a release and tried to get out. He's done it openly and told everyone what's happening. So if he's playing good enough footy, I don't see why he can't stay there. Whether they want him there or not, I don't know.
The club's issue is not with Joey, it's with his management.
Yes, yeah.
And how they went about business.
Oh, I thought they went around the business okay. Everything was pretty open.
Although... I was saying, no. I'm pretty sure though his management were telling the Roosters that he was staying and a deal's about to be done right up to the moment when he wasn't. Funny that.
Right, okay. But I know what you mean. You're saying it's a different situation to, say, the Ben Hunt situation where Swali'i is going to remain until the end of his contract.
He's going to honour his contract at the Roosters. He hasn't tried to walk away from him. That's my point.
All right, State of Origin, just days away now. Who wins and why?
I'll give I'll give New South Wales a chance. I know there's a lot of pessimism around New South Wales at the moment, but they weren't that far away in Game 1 at Adelaide. I know they completely made a mess of the last 10 minutes against 12 men, but I think on paper both teams are fairly evenly matched, and this game will define, I think, Freddie's legacy to a large extent, what happens on Wednesday night. Either way, if they win, he'll probably go down as his greatest win as a New South Wales coach. If they lose, it's going to be back-to-back series losses, and then obviously all sorts of pressure is going to be on.
Oh, look, I think the Blues win without a doubt. I mean, I think that they've got to start better.
Without a doubt?
Well, not without a doubt. It's going to be a close game, be a tight game. I'll tip them to win by a field goal, but they've got to start better. They didn't start well at all, and they've got to finish better. Let's not forget, they hit the lead down in Adelaide with 13 men on the field. They blew the last 10 minutes. I totally agree with that. We all know that. But what's done is done. They can't change it. But I think they get the win. I think Liam Martin goes mad and Teddy gets man of the match.
New South Wales by 2.
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah. You think this?
I think it's weird, though. Don't you reckon all the former players? I saw Sammy Thaiday said it earlier. Lockie said it the other night.
Yes.
They're all coming out saying complacencies might be the issue for Queensland. Really? Come on. Do you think Billy and Cameron Smith are going to let complacency be an issue for Queensland?
No. But it is. They're going in as the underdogs. Sorry,
Favourites.
we're going in as the underdogs.
exactly.
They're not going in as the underdogs, which is what they love.
For the first time.
Yeah,
in a very,
they
very long
love
time.
being the underdogs. So yeah, it'll be a intriguing game too. Can't wait for it. We'll see you all up there.